Hello, this is Global Matters. On this program, we'll bring you global issues who shape the world, issues of international and global agenda that determine our national and common interests, especially in Africa and indeed Nigeria. My name is Tony Arabo. Thank God it's another Friday, and thank you for taking the time to join us on the program today. On this show today, we'll be taking a look at the just concluded African meeting in France. After a 4-day meeting in France, African leaders have returned to their countries, including President Muhammadu Buhari, who is also back in Abuja, Nigeria. He was part of an African finance meeting hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. The summit focused on France's involvement with the African economy, especially in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, insurgency, and terrorism in the Sahel region. Though Africa is by far the less hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, with about 130,000 dead across the continent at the moment, the economic cost is said to be massive, with the IMF warning in 2020 that Africa faces a shortfall in the funds needed for critical development, amounting to a funding gap of $290 billion by 2023. This warning is against the backdrop of the huge debt burden on Africa, with some proposing at the summit a moratorium or suspension of the servicing of the debt until the end of the pandemic. Meanwhile, the French President Emmanuel Macron has pledged his commitment to persuade other rich nations to reallocate $100 billion in IMF special drawing reserves to African nations to boost Africa's post-pandemic economic recovery, and proposes the lifting of COVID-19 patent to allow their manufacturers produce vaccines in the continent. The summit attracted about 24 African presidents, including the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, who doubles as the AU chair, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo, Macky Sall of Senegal, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Rwandan President Paul Kagame, among others. Key players from the global financial institutions were also present. The International Monetary Fund, WTO, representatives from the G7, G20, as well as some European leaders. Economic forums like these on Africa began some 25 years ago. Well, we're still wondering what the result has been. However, with rich industrial nations either hosting or designing the themes for the event. Although some summits have been held in Africa, nations, the contention is why most rich nations in the West continue to design African financial and economic path. It's a serious one. Why most issues bordering on Africa, its economy, finances, and its people, be discussed several thousands of kilometers away from Africa. What is the interest of the US, the UK, Europe, including China, in designing how Africa should run its economy and finances? Do we not have leaders who can think upright anymore? Why does Africa have difficulty developing homegrown economic and financial solutions? Does Africa require the intervention of foreign economies to fast-track its development? Does France have a significant economic advantage over Africa as a former colonial master? And these are some of the issues we're going to look at on the program today. These are serious, contentious issues that Africa and African leaders need time to ponder on and determine where Africa should go. Why should we continue to run to Europe, Africa, run to Europe, run to America, run to China? Then we got to discuss issues that border on Africa and even on the development of Africa. Joining us on the program today from Milan in Italy to review the African Summit in France is Mark Gordon Iwejoa. Mark Gordon is a publisher of Schengen Story magazine. Is based in Milan. He was part of that meeting, and of course he one of the facilitators of the president meeting Nigerians in the diaspora. He'll be joining us live from Milan on the program today. But before I bring my guest from Milan, Italy, let's go on this very short break and have some overview of what the meeting was in France, and I'll be back.
French President Emmanuel Macron hosted African leaders and the heads of multilateral leaders in Paris for a summit designed to find ways of assisting and financing African economies which may have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. and discuss how to handle the continent's billions of dollar debt.
Africa has all it takes to succeed.
Elle a une jeunesse
a productive
productive
and the
et la
ability to
capacité
take
à
on
relever
challenges
les défis
such as
ceux
the climate and
de
food
l'urgence climatique et alimentaire en particulier.
If we
Si
collectively decide to
collectivement nous
propose a
décidons
new deal,
en effet de proposer une
it
nouvelle
is
donne.
that first
Et c'est
stone
cette première
that we
pierre que nous
wish to
souhaitons
lay during this
porter
Paris summit.
lors de ce sommet de Paris.
President Macron used the summit to re-establish France's engagement in Africa, where it was once a colonial power. The summit in France came at a time Africa faces a near $3 billion deficit by the end of 2023, while trying to recover from the economic downturn caused by many challenges including COVID-19.
Aujourd'hui, il y a la pandémie,
there is
il y a d'autres
COVID-19
pandémies qui touchent l'Afrique
pandemic.
depuis trop d'années,
The other
la crise
pandemics
économique
that
et
have
sociale,
been affecting
et
Africa
l'épicentre du
for
terrorisme
too many
international
years.
qui est en train de se
This
déployer.
economic and social
C'est
crisis
pourquoi
and the
il est
epicenter of
impérieux de
international
pouvoir
terrorism
actualiser
that is deploying
nos
in
règles
Africa.
financières en prenant en
It is
compte
why
cette
it is
charge de
imperative
sécurité
to
qui
be able
pèse
to
sur beaucoup
update
d'États
our financial
africains,
rules
mais
by
aussi
taking into account
en ayant
that
une
security
doctrine
burden
africaine de la
that
bonne
affects
gouvernance.
Africa, but also by having an African doctrine of good governance.
Meanwhile, President Macron stated at the summit that he believes Africa needs a new deal to give the continent a breath of fresh air. The summit brings together some 30 African and European heads of state, as well as the heads of global finance institutions like the International Monetary Fund.
We are gathered here to reverse what has developed as a very dangerous divergence between advanced economies and developing countries, especially Africa. We have to go back to the strong development Africa had before COVID, for Africa and for the rest of the world.
World finance chiefs agreed in April to boost reserves SDR at the International Monetary Fund by $650 billion and extend the debt servicing freeze to help developing countries deal with the pandemic, although only $34 billion will be allocated to Africa.
Africa this year is expected to grow only 3.2%. The rest of the world, 6%. We have to boost growth, public and private investments in Africa. And we can do that by mobilizing financing from international organizations, from bilateral donors, and of course from the countries themselves.
The African Development Bank estimates that as many as 39 million people could fall below the poverty line this year, with many African countries at risk of debt distress because of the pandemic.
Nous devrions voir aussi au niveau de l'Afrique
We should
comment
see,
nous pourrions,
when it comes to
à
Africa,
notre niveau, au
how
niveau
we
des
could,
communautés
at the level of
économiques
regional
régionales,
economic communities, propose
proposer
a
une
sort
sorte de
of
filet de
financial safety
protection
net that will allow us to face
financier
crises of that kind.
qui pourrait nous aider à pouvoir faire face.
The summit was held a day after a conference attended by several heads of state that aimed at rallying support for the Sudanese government under Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok and the transition after the 2019 removal of longtime leader Omar al-Bashir.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us on the program. This is still Global Matters. On the show, we're taking a look at global issues as they affect our common wealth and common interest in Africa, especially in Nigeria. The focus of the program today has to do with the just concluded African Summit in France, and we're looking at the dynamics of foreign power play. I'm joined from Milan by Gordon Iwejura, a publisher of a Schengen Story magazine. Gordon, thank you for taking the time to join us on the program today. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Shagun. Dr. Tunde. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just quickly give us an overview of the African Summit in France.
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you, Tunde, once again. My name is Mark Godwin Iweajuwan. Also, I would like to correct something. I was not physically in the meeting the finance meeting. But what President Macron did was he made it a hybrid format meeting. So a lot of people were also able to connect online, and many more were also there physically. So for we journalists, they opened up an avenue, a method where we can follow up with the day's occurrence, each of the 4 days occurrences. So I was part of that arrangement, and we got enough briefing as we wanted to. So that being said, thank you once again, Dr. Tunde. It's wonderful to give back some of the information we have gotten, and it's wonderful to be in your program. Let me start by saying that what you're seeing with Africans converging in France, in Paris, for the summit is what has been happening for decades and years now. Yes, France still has a hold on Africa. France still has a hold on both the former colonial countries and even other parts of Africa. And you won't blame them to all extent. It's not much of their blame. It is also because the African leaders, African heads of states have not really gotten how to be dependent, totally dependent on themselves as a country. So a background story of this summit is, like you just said, Dr. Tunde, what brought about this one was more on recovery of the African economy. We all know what the pandemic has done. It didn't affect Africa in terms of the pandemic itself, the COVID-19. Health-wise, we have less cases in Africa compared to what you're seeing now in Asia and what has been happening here in Europe. So, but what affected Africa more is on the economy side. Because Africa is not well structured, when there is a problem with a part of a human endeavor, it affects Africa as if they are also part of it. So that was one. Another reason is the meeting was held to give an authorized opening up of patent rights to the COVID vaccination. I don't know if a lot of our viewers understand what patent is. Here in the Western world, when you produce something, you're supposed to put your label and your name, your trademark on it. And nobody touches that. Nobody goes ahead to touch your product unless with permission from you. So the COVID-19 was manufactured, but they patented it, they closed it. So Africa and other countries can't produce. So Pfizer, J&J, and all the pharmaceutical companies locked the production. So this meeting was an avenue to come together, WHO, WTO, and all the medical organizations coming together to ask that this intellectual property patent closure should be made open so that Africa can also begin to produce on their own and have the right and everything. So that's another reason. Now the other reason also again was you should know that Nigeria has a company. Nigeria is into oil production, and there's a company right there in Nigeria called Total. Now Total merged with another company called ELF, and these two companies are right here in France. They are French companies, French oil producing companies. Now Total gives us 200,000 barrels of production every day, and that's huge. That's huge for Nigerian economy. So the President Muhammad Buhari had to meet with Total executives, Total officers to discuss a new arrangement on oil production, a new arrangement with Total. So these are some of the reasons. Now, finally, also, the meeting was held because there's another meeting that will be held in Tunisia next year. Tunisia will be having the Tokyo International Conference for African development. So this meeting also gave room to discuss about that Tunisia event coming up next year. So these are all important reasons for the meeting to be held. Okay, go ahead.
Sometime last year, we had Prime Minister Boris Johnson also hosting an African summit where several African head of state also attended, and I'm sure very soon Biden will also be probably thinking about hosting African summit. The question is, why should the West continue to determine the future, the finances, the economy, and the life of Africans on their land? Why?
Very good question, Dr. Tunde. Let's note this. Africa remains the second largest continent in the world. That's for size. Africa also is the second most populated continent in the world. That's number. So these two factors is enough for anybody to want to run to Africa, any serious-minded person. Africa also, like you know, Dr. Tunde, is where you have the most deposits of human natural resources. Yes. So all of these plays to reason why everybody wants to hobnob with Africa. But the sad thing is, African leaders don't know the power they have. They don't know how much of importance and relevance they are to the world. You see, because we are still having leaders that have these old mindsets, old ways of thinking, and that mentality of running to and fro to these colonial masters. Now, for France, why France has a hold on Africa, apart from the countries it colonized, we all know, taking it back to what you call the Cold War era. Now, the Cold War era was a time when Russia was trying to almost dominate the world, and one way they were going to do that was through Africa. So France and America liaised together, and since France was closer to Africa and close to the North Bloc, the Russia, America helped France to hold on and make France have a hold on Africans, because they know Africa is the vulnerable one. Whenever there is anything, these are weak people, these are weak, with structure, with economy, everything. So France had that opportunity, with America's permission, to have a hold on Africa. So that was during the Cold War era, and that stretched through until today. France still has that that grip on Africa, but it started from the Cold War era. Now, to your question, running back and forth is really not ideal. Politically, economically, is not ideal. But the but there is, the world is interwoven. The world has a system whereby economies of weaker countries can be manipulated or can be held by the stronger countries. So Africa finds itself in a situation where, because they can't stand alone, the economy hasn't really stood as strong as it should. So they find themselves running from pillar to post, running to, what the Chinese are also doing. The Chinese also are coming, and they are coming in full force. So, but gradually we hope this awareness will begin to die down, because there's a new age of Africans now. I mean, with great African leaders like the men and women in key positions in in the world. We're talking of people like Dr. Adewumi. We're talking of people like our big sister Ngozi. Now, very soon that mentality will begin to fade off, because we have that intellectual, we have those capability, we do, but because we've not had role models that will start it up, so a lot of us find ourselves always going under the white man's dictates. But it's about to change, Dr. Tunde.
Thank you so much. I mean, very wonderfully strict. You taking us through the Cold War era, 1947 to 1991.
Yeah.
Weak structures, weak institutions. How America had to support France because of the weak institution structures in Africa to help France hold on to Africa, so that Russia would not overrun Africa. Even several years after that, 1947 to 2021. Africa hasn't built any strong institution, no strong structure. The democratic structure is weak, the economic structure very weak. All other institutions are also very weak. Take Nigeria for instance. The security structure very weak, the anti-corruption institutions very weak. Go to Liberia, South Africa, Ghana is just a bit coming out of it and coming out stronger. Chad is not anything better. At what point would Africa ever become strong? Is it in the destiny of Africa to be subjected to stronger, richer, powerful nation? Would we ever come out of this problem?
No, yes, we will come out of it, Dr. Tunde.
How long? Our generation? Or unknown generations?
In the next decade, things are bound to change, I tell you. Thank you for bringing up Ghana. Ghana is impressively coming up. Just yesterday also, while this meeting was going on, you know about the EIB, that's the European International Bank and Development Bank. Now, Ghana, because Ghana has a level of serenity when it comes to security. Ghana has a level of control in their the way human activities and the way they go about
and
it.
Also a very growing economy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go on.
Yes. So Ghana is becoming the new financial hub for Africa. Just 2 days ago, the EIB president confirmed a close relationship with Ghana and shared some visions for transiting into Africa. So that's a big development. Now, it doesn't mean that Africa will forever be under the white man's control. What this means is when there are these kinds of interactions, collaborations, and development going on, it rubs on the minds of business people in Africa, and somehow, somewhere, it now comes back to us to make a change, take control of what is going on, take control of that situation. You know, Nigeria is trying to do that, but because of security, like you said, and some other social factors, Nigeria is still struggling. But Ghana is picking up. So yesterday there was 170 million euros being deposited, being agreed upon by the EIB to Ghana.
I'm sorry, I may have to stop you there because my time is really gone. But we need to actually come back and take a look at this issue. I'm finding this very fascinating and interesting. I think it's an issue we need to really deal with. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Mark Gordon Iweajura, who is the publisher of Schengen Story, a magazine that is editorially independent, based in Europe, disseminating news, updates, events, activities, and lifestyle of people living in Europe, Schengen. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us on the program today, sir. Certainly, we'll come back to look at this issue, and they are a good areas for us to latch on and then explore, especially for our people people like you who are up there in Europe, in America, who are looking to see a way of coming back to Africa and Nigeria and do something. Thank you so much for your time on the program today, sir.
Thank you. Grazie.
All right. This is how far we can go on the program. Has been speaking with Mark Gordon Iwejuwa, the publisher of Schengen magazine, who was monitoring the African summit in France for us, joining us on the program, taking us through some of the issues and review of that program. Thank God it's on a Friday. Let me let you go now and start a wonderful weekend as you begin to plan. But keep safe. COVID is still out there. Until I see you again next week Friday, my sincere appreciation to the team that made this program possible. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.